Hello, and thank you for joining us for this Community Development Block Grant information session. Today, you'll learn about the Community Development Block Grant Program in Arlington and about the CDBG funding application process. First, let's talk about the Community Development Block Grant Program, or CDBG. The CDBG program is managed by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, which administers grants to entitlement communities like Arlington each year on a formula basis. Annually, Arlington receives a grant of about $1 million, which it distributes to community organizations and town departments through the Department of Planning and Community Development. HUD establishes that the primary objective of CDBG is to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment and expanding economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income persons. Each year, HUD requires that communities that receive CDBG funds create plans that align with the goals of the program and that coordinate citizen engagement efforts to ensure the plans address community needs. First is the 5-year consolidated plan. This 5-year plan is designed to help communities assess their affordable housing and community development needs and to make data-driven, place-based investment decisions. It also serves as a framework for a community-wide dialogue to identify priorities. Arlington is currently in year 3 of the consolidated plan. Next is the annual action plan. This plan prioritizes the information from the 5-year consolidated plan on an annual basis. Each year, the town creates an annual action plan based on achieving the goals it set forth in the consolidated plan. The 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan is available at arlingtonma.gov/CDBG. Now let's talk about the priority needs and goals. The 5 priority needs and goals are set forth in the top row of this page: housing, economic development, parks and infrastructure, public services, and planning and administration. These are set in the order of priority that Arlington established in its consolidated plan. Associated with each of these priority needs is a goal that further refines the targeted priority need. In order for a project to qualify for funding, every activity must achieve one of the first 4 consolidated plan goals: housing, economic development, parks and infrastructure, or public services, and the associated goal that accompanies it. Planning and administration covers staff and administrative costs associated with carrying out the CDBG program and is subject to a cap that limits the amount of the grant that can be spent on planning and administration costs each year. As you can see, these goals alone are quite broad. There's one more requirement that must be met in order to qualify for CDBG funding, so let's look at that next. You'll recall from earlier in this presentation that the primary objective of the CDBG program is to serve households with low and moderate incomes. To qualify for funds, the last requirement is that a project must also meet one of 3 national objectives. First is that a project could provide a benefit to low and moderate income persons, which includes services available exclusively to persons with incomes below 80% of the area median income, as well as housing and jobs aimed at supporting those in this income range, and projects located in census tracts that are predominantly made up of households with low and moderate incomes. This is considered the primary national objective of the CDBG program. Some examples include construction of a health clinic, scholarships for youth to participate in recreational programs, and acquisition of an apartment house to provide dwelling units to households with low and moderate incomes. The next national objective is aid in the elimination of slum and blight. The focus of activities under this national objective is a change in the physical environment of a deteriorating area. This contrasts with the low and moderate income benefit national objective, where the goal is to ensure that funded activities benefit individual persons. It is much less common to qualify activities through this national objective because a site has to be designated as blighted or as an urban renewal area. The final national objective is meet an urgent need. Use of this national objective category is rare. It's designed only for activities that alleviate emergency conditions. The rest of this presentation will focus on the first national objective, provide a benefit to low and moderate income persons, because it is the most common and is how all CDBG activities in Arlington have qualified in recent years. This slide shows some examples of recent projects that meet different town priority needs and national objectives in Arlington. The Arlington Boys and Girls Club has received a CDBG grant to provide scholarships. The priority need it meets is public services, and the national objective is low and moderate income clientele. The Housing Corporation of Arlington recently used a grant to enable pre-development costs for the Downing Square development, which is now home to over 30 households. The priority need it met was affordable housing, and the national objective was low and moderate income housing. The Parmenter Playground project received funds for the creation of a park with ADA-compliant accessible features. The priority need that was met was parks, public facilities, and infrastructure, and the national objective was low and moderate income area. These are just a few examples of eligible projects. If you're interested in seeing more of what CDBG can support, visit arlingtonma.gov/CDBG. As a recipient of CDBG funds, there are several requirements that must be met. Recipients of CDBG funds are called subrecipients. First, you must document program activities and expenses. Second, you must submit reports to measure outputs and outcomes on a quarterly basis. Third, you must submit invoices for reimbursement on a minimum quarterly basis. 4, you must participate in monitoring the town staff as deemed necessary. And 5th, you'll ensure compliance of contractors and subcontractors if you're pursuing a construction project. If you're interested in learning more about the requirements of the CDBG program for subrecipients, you can find the CDBG subrecipient manual, which is available at the URL on this page. Now let's take a look at the application process. At this point, you may be wondering if you're eligible to apply for CDBG funds. Eligible applicants include 501c3 designated nonprofit organizations, certain for-profit entities, faith-based organizations, units of government, and institutions of higher education. Please note that individuals are not eligible to apply directly for assistance, though they may be eligible for programs provided through subrecipients. In Arlington, projects are typically carried out by nonprofits and town departments. This is the CDBG funding cycle. Starting all the way at the left side of the page, November 3rd is when the CDBG application period opens this year. In November and December, the application assistance is available by appointment, and the CDBG application deadline for the 2023-2024 cycle is January 13th, 2023. Later in January, the Select Board will have a hearing on current projects and new applications, which new applicants are invited to attend to share more about their project. In February and March, the CDBG subcommittee reviews applications and budgets, and in March, the budget is recommendation is presented to the Select Board. The Select Board will later, in the spring, recommend the budget to be moved to town meeting. It will be voted on at town meeting sometime in May, and after that, applicants will be notified of the status of their application. Also in May, the CDBG Annual Action Plan, which contains the budget and the applicants who have received funding for the year ahead, will be submitted to HUD. The program year begins on July 1st, and subrecipient agreements and projects are generally ready to proceed in August or September. The town is currently accepting applications for CDBG funding for program year 49. This means this is the 49th year the town is receiving CDBG funds. Our grant year aligns with the town's fiscal year, beginning on July 1st and ending on June 30th. This is a reminder that every CDBG activity must achieve one of the CDBG program's priority needs and goals. In addition to one of the national objectives of the program, likely that the project will provide a benefit to low or moderate income earning persons. Now, here's an application overview. There are 3 parts of the application. Part 1, agency and project information. Part 2, budget. Part 3, project narrative table. Part 1, agency and project information. In this section, you will provide information about the agency and a contact person, your project name, dates it will cover, location and your grant request amount, eligibility verification, where you'll tell us what national objective you are achieving, the beneficiaries you are serving, and your proposed outputs. You'll also provide a project summary, a description, an evaluation plan, and goals. There are several attachments that must be included as part of your application, including your 501c3 letter if you are a nonprofit organization, a financial audit, and your Massachusetts Certificate of Good Standing, in addition to optional organizational brochures or other information that you'd like to provide to supplement your application. Part 2, budget. Here, you will provide line item descriptions telling us what each line item that you're requesting is, the amount of CDBG funds of your request, and any other funds for that line item that you are contributing, either from organizational budget or from other funding sources. You'll share your total proposed budget, a summary of other funding, provide a cost-benefit analysis telling us the amount per person the project costs, and project feasibility with a smaller grant award. Part 3, project narrative table. In this section, you'll provide a need statement, goal, inputs, activities, outputs, and short and long-term outcomes. This is an opportunity for you to tell us how you are achieving outcomes through your project. Once applications are received, they will be evaluated by the CDBG subcommittee. This slide shows the evaluation criteria. There's a maximum of 18 points, including bonus points. You will need to show that you are meeting a consolidated plan priority need and a national objective. Demonstrate clear comprehension of a community need and an understanding of the inputs and activities necessary to achieve outputs and outcomes. Demonstrate appropriate resources, staff, and capacity. Yield a low cost-benefit ratio comparable to similar projects. Show whether you have additional funds or in-kind resources that have been leveraged, and show that you are advancing Town of Arlington goals. There are also up to 3 bonus points for new services being provided, new partnerships being established, and showing evidence of a project being self-sustainable. If you have questions as you're looking at the application and considering applying, please feel free to contact us. Contact information for the CDBG program is available at the bottom of this slide. The application and guidelines are available at arlingtonma.gov/cdbg. Thank you.